Okay, so welcome to Zen Poetry, part whatever we're on, 2. More Zen. You see a bumper sticker or a pin or something somewhere that said, "Eat more Zen." I like that.
How can you eat?
If only we could.
It's all you can eat. Okay, let's just sit quietly for a minute and let being be. With your eyes closed or open. Being warm or cool, hungry or full. Serene or antsy. And just notice how whether you're warm or cool, serene or antsy, it's all experienced from the same place, this place. And this place is neither warm nor cool, neither serene nor antsy, neither anything nor anything else. Doesn't mean that those differences in what's experienced go away, but it means we notice that we're experiencing them from a place that's not subject to those differences. Nothing to do about it, just noticing. Just resting here. The only place where we've ever been. And if your eyes are closed, let's take a few moments to open them slowly. Okay, so we're Brother Bob, hi.
Hi,
Great to see you.
thanks. Great being here. I'm sorry I've been missing a few, but I'm happy to be here.
Those absences are going to go on your permanent record.
Too many to mention to list.
Right. But eventually all your absences are wiped out by presence.
Okay.
But bum. I got to start doing Dharma stand-up.
You're good.
Actually, it's kind of all I do. Okay, so we're going to do some more Zen poetry today. We're reading out of this book. You don't need the book because you can hear me do it, but in case you got it and want to read along, that's fine. The Enlightened Heart. And I want to start with a poem on page 35 by Layman. My daily affairs are quite ordinary, but I'm in total harmony with them. I don't hold on to anything, don't reject anything. Nowhere an obstacle or conflict. Who cares about wealth and honor? Even the poorest thing shines. My miraculous power and spiritual activity, drawing water and carrying wood. That's so delicious. I'll read it again. And you know, Yafa pointed this out, I think it was last week, that these poems by these I mean they're really by Zen masters who, because of their culture, they express themselves in poetry. So they really are teachings. This is not like reading a Shakespeare sonnet where then we have to massage it and squeeze the Dharma out of it. The Dharma is right there. And it's not that one is better or worse, it's just it's a different deal, different game. My daily affairs are quite ordinary, but I'm in total harmony with them. I don't hold on to anything, don't reject anything. Nowhere an obstacle or conflict. Who cares about wealth and honor? Even the poorest thing shines. My miraculous power and spiritual activity, drawing water and carrying wood. Okay. So what are you getting from that? Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the first two lines. My daily affairs are quite ordinary. Is that what everyone would expect to hear from an enlightened master? My daily affairs, my daily life. What's it like? What's it like? I remember, early in my days with this stuff, along with my other, we were all like 20, 21 years old, and we had started hanging out with some of these masters, and we speculate, oh, what must their life be like? And what, and the way we would imagine what it's like walking around in the enlightened state, it's just like everywhere you go, it's psychedelic fireworks, right? And your way of being is just, everything you say is just, redolent of cosmic truth or something like that. You don't make mistakes. Some of this stuff was fed by language from some of these teachers that would maybe be a little careless, or they'd be speaking in hyperbole or metaphor or something. My teacher Maharishi would say, yeah, to the enlightened person, actually in those good old spiritually incorrect days, he would say, for the enlightened man, right? He says, the enlightened man doesn't make mistakes, right?
That's not true.
And then I remember standing with a couple of my buddies on a retreat with him and watching him coming down from his teaching seat on a little flight, a couple of steps, and he stumbled on one of the steps for a moment, and then righted himself, and then fine, great, went out the door. Everyone was namasteing and handing him flowers and so forth, and went out the door. And then afterwards, the guys I'd been standing with started with, one of them said, "Did you see that? Maharishi stumbled. How can an enlightened man stumble?" and then I listened to these guys convince themselves, no, that must not have happened. because there's the logic. An enlightened person can't make a mistake. Stumbling is a mistake. Maharishi's an enlightened person, an enlightened man. Therefore, Maharishi did not stumble. Right? This is how religions start. So here we have Layman Pang or Pong, very nicely puncturing all of these fantasies. In the first line, my daily affairs are quite ordinary. You see me from the outside, everything looks exactly the same as anyone else. Quite ordinary. I mean, you hang around them long enough and you compare to other people you might notice that mainly you'd notice things that don't happen. You go, I don't hear this guy talking about being depressed. I don't hear this guy, I don't see this guy getting caught up in a lot of anger and reactivity and so forth. Not that it's not possible. One of these sessions the other night, or a week or two ago, I mentioned there was an episode where actually, again, Maharishi started yelling at me in a big room, big auditorium full of people, yelling at me, calling me stupid. And he was right. I was stupid, and I needed to hear that. But it's not the fantasy image we have of enlightened people that, oh, my son, you made a mistake. No, he was reaming me out like anyone. So my daily affairs are quite ordinary, but I'm in total harmony with them. There's the difference. If you're angry, if anger is what expresses, you're in harmony with that. Right? Even if, and that this, I know this can be hard to hear. If depression comes up, you can be in harmony with depression. There's a tendency to have less of those things, a tendency to have less depression, less anger, all of that. But it doesn't mean, anything human can come up. But there isn't all this internal grinding of gears. Just says, okay, if the dog is barking, it's the barking dog. And we're in harmony with it. We're not straining against that which we can't do anything about. And both the things we think of as external, like the barking dog, and the things we think of as internal, like our own emotional barking, we're in harmony with them.
Yes, in one sense, you could say it's all, whether it's inside your head or whether it's outside the walls of your room, it's all inside of you, ultimately.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. I was using the conventional term, and we make the conventional distinction between inside and outside. But Bob, you're absolutely right. It's all inside our awareness, so to speak. Even to use the word inside, it's a spatial term, and space and time are within awareness. Now I'm using the word within, which is a spatial. This is the language we're stuck with.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It's just that distinction is a dualistic distinction that an awakened person tends to see through. I don't hold on to anything, don't reject anything. Right? Stuff comes and goes. Of course, this sounds a whole lot like the instructions you hear from me all the time when we're meditating. Because in a sense, all we're doing when we're meditating is we're modeling the style of functioning of the awareness of someone that's enlightened. Right? Nowhere an obstacle or conflict. Right? How many times have you heard? I'm sorry? Someone
say that again. You're modeling?
Yes, that what we're doing in meditation, in a sense, is we are modeling the style of awareness of an awakened person. But see, we can do it. It's easier to do when you're just sitting with your eyes closed, without anything to interact with. See, we're sort of like in the little greenhouse growing the little tender shoots of enlightened style of being, right? In that protected environment, it's relatively easy. There's not much to interact with. There's not much to be in conflict with. So, once in a while there's a barking dog, or your nose itches, or your knee hurts or something, and that's great. We have to have some of that stuff come up so we can experience ourselves being in conflict with it, knocking our head against it, then realizing there's nothing we can do about it, let it go. Okay, just be in harmony with it. That's our training ground for this way of functioning. And then more and more as we learn it in meditation, that style of functioning carries over into the outside world. As we get used to functioning that way and experiencing, it just feels so much better to not knock your head against the walls of the cage than to knock your head against the walls of the cage. Then more and more that carries over. So it's like more and more we can transplant the little tender shoots, once they get strong enough, into the outside world where the wind blows and the snow falls. So in a sense, that's what's being described here. It's completely familiar to us from the practice of meditation, and as we continue to practice, this becomes more familiar to us as, daily life. I don't hold on to anything, don't reject anything, nowhere an obstacle or conflict. All right, how many times have you heard me say, there's no such thing as an obstacle to meditation? It only seems like one if we make it one, if we consider it one. Noise is no obstacle, thoughts are no obstacle, we just be in harmony with it. And if you think, how can I possibly be in harmony with this thing? I'm obsessing about this horrible thing that happened in the news. Well, okay, that's why we practice. That's why we practice. Who cares about wealth and honor? Right? So this is, now we're starting to see it more specifically, the way this would carry over in outer life. The stuff that seems so that, most people pursue as such important goals. Right, piling up wealth, piling up honor.
So the ego, the mind body, with its history and its conditioning, has its desires or preferences.
Yes.
Let's say have some money in the bank or whatever, or have a lot of money in the bank. So
I'm not giving my money away.
I'm sorry?
I said, I'm not giving my money away.
So there's something that,
I have preferences. This is
it's the functional.
This is cappuccino breve. I very carefully, I select my favorite beans. I grind them. I make it in a very exacting way. I'm not drinking no Folgers instant.
That's right. No, that's fine. I'm just.
Here's looking at you.
I'm just pointing out. I don't know whether I'm.
No. It's.
Why don't you help me explore what it is I'm bringing up, which is that there's an ego that's playing out, which we're no longer identified with, but it's still playing out.
Yes, nicely put. There is an ego. There is a sense of an individual personality. People can point to this thing and go, that's Bob. Bob likes rutabaga. He doesn't like celery or something. Okay? You're still going to have preferences. The difference is that, as you say, when we're no longer identified with that ego, when we just know that's just the persona. I like that word better. Ego tends to, people associate that with egotism. It can be very, it's kind of a loaded word. I prefer the word personality also because the root of that word is persona, mask,
Yeah.
right? And that points out, okay, there's the mask. The mask has its function. We're all walking around in masks these days, but here this is talking about like a Halloween mask, which we'll have in a few days. But we're not we're not the mask that we wear. We are the awareness that's looking through the eye holes out from behind the mask, so to speak.
Mhm.
So that's how what we actually are, which is boundless awareness, looks through the aperture of the personality or the ego and functions. And that vehicle, it's a vehicle. And that vehicle is going to have preferences, it's going to have tendencies, it's going to have proclivities. It's going to have talents, it's going to have things it's good at and bad at. You know, I have a terrible sense of direction, and I'm pretty sure, no matter how much meditation and awakening I do in this lifetime, I'm still going to have a terrible sense of direction.
That's no problem in the age of Uber.
Uh, when they came out with when they first came out with the navigation systems, what were those first ones called? The Tom Toms, whatever. I was so happy that I lived long enough to see that,
Yeah.
because I had just basically spent the first several decades of my life lost, right? But the difference, yeah, Bob, back to your point, the preferences are still there, but we 2 weeks ago we read the famous one by Seng Chan, that starts off, "The great way is not difficult for those who are not attached to their preferences." Right. So the preferences are still there, but we're not attached to them. We're not identified with them. Actually, I like you. I mean, who knows what the heck the original Chinese actually says? I don't, but I actually like your translation better. I like not identified with. Here's this thing. Here's this vehicle that prefers cappuccino to Nescafe, and it keeps doing that. Okay, cool. We just kind of have a sense of humor about it.
As long, from what in my readings, as long as it's not anti-dharmic or something.
As long as it's not anti-dharma, yeah. As long as it's and being aligned with, well, there's two. I mean, there's actually many senses of the word dharma, but two main senses. But what you just said, Bob, I think works for both of them. One is the primarily Buddhist sense of the word dharma, which is the enlightenment teaching, the way of of waking up. And then there's the primarily Hindu sense of the word dharma, which is one's individual path. And you're absolutely right in both cases that as we become more clear, as we become more awake, the alignment with the Dharma, with the carrying out the awakening teachings, and with the individual, which is essentially the same for everyone, and then with the individual Dharma, your individual path, which, famously in the Hindu tradition, the Bhagavad Gita says, better is death in one's own Dharma than life in the Dharma of another. The Dharma of another brings danger, right? It's if you decide, oh, that guy's path, that guy's trip, that guy's thing looks better than mine, I'm going to try to do that. I mean, of course, we can have role models and get suggestions and all that. That's a different thing. But if it's a thing that's just not appropriate for the way you are wired, I saw that so many times, tragically sometimes, in my years teaching at the Pingree School, this high-powered prep school. And some parents really nicely, most of them, they were, it was an expensive school. They were mostly successful people. And some of them very beautifully understood that their kids were individuals and were going to be different from the parents. And some of the parents I saw them just crushing the kids' spirits because they had all these set ideas about how the kid has to be what I was, or the kid has to be what I wished I'd been.
Right, right.
You know,
Mhm.
this one parent who I was actually close to the family, and he told the kids, okay, there was a college the dad had always wished he'd been able to go to. And he told the kids, good, you're going to that college and I'm paying for everything. If you go anywhere else, you're on your own.
Oh.
And it was horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So,
You know, it reminds me, I understand that Mother Teresa wrote an autobiography
mhm,
where she actually sort of confessed, and maybe someone else can confirm this, that she really had a lot of sort of self-flagellation and unhappiness with herself and dissatisfaction.
yeah, yeah,
And what it reminds me of is,
and
at least
doubts.
I heard one teacher
And Bob, and religious doubts. I haven't read it, but I read about it somewhere, and that she had religious doubts as well. And
the what was offered to me from one teacher was she was a failure because she felt she had to imitate Christ exactly.
mhm,
That's her setup. So she couldn't accept the fact that her life wasn't like that, or it didn't express exactly the way she thought Jesus's life expressed. I don't.
now you just
Anyway,
put your finger on it. It wasn't her problem wasn't imitating the life of Christ. It was imitating the way she thought was the life of Christ. It was her limited concept of it. You're at that there it is. I would say, I mean, what the hell do I know? I wasn't there, but I'll bet you $1, and someday we'll get the time machine and be able to confirm that I'm right. I will bet you $1 that the way she was, with doubts and conflicts and all that, that was the way Christ was. That was the way. What we get is the edited, cleaned up, airbrushed. We get the comic book version of Christ and Buddha, all those people.
We get the version that you thought Maharishi had, that he can't stumble on a step.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right. Thank you. And it's such a disservice. It's a disservice to them, and it's a disservice to ourselves. Because what it does is it pushes awakening further away. Oh, awakening is for those special beings up on the pedestal. So I'm off the hook. I could never be like that. Yeah, you can never be like that, and neither can they. Neither can they.
Well, I guess the most essential, though, is regardless of what they were like, whether it's sugar coated or whatever you call it.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
The point is, it doesn't matter. It's just the basic point is that
Well,
you're setting something up.
yeah,
It's all based on imitating, setting up your worth based on a belief in, whatever the belief is.
yeah, ultimately right. It doesn't matter. But the fact of the matter is that a whole lot of what gets us inspired onto this path in the first place and to keep going on the path is the shining example of Buddha,
Yeah.
all that. But I would maintain that the more deeply we understand what they were about, the more inspired we can get by their example. Right? The more we understand that an enlightened human being, an awakened human being, doesn't stop being a human being. They are completely human, but they are awakened within it. And the human part is what we were calling before, the ego or the personality. The awakened part is waking up to the boundless self, which is looking through the eye holes of the mask, that's not subject to any of the limitations, any of the quirks of the mask, but the quirks remain there. I mean, they tend to get smoothed out. I mean, we've all experienced this. If you've been meditating for a month or a year or 10 years, you experience the quirks get smoothed out. Exactly what he says at the beginning of this. I'm completely ordinary. I'm just in harmony with it. Okay, let's go on. Who cares about wealth and honor? So, yeah, that's with an asterisk. It doesn't mean you can't have a bank account. Doesn't mean, you can't. A couple of years ago, one of my books won an award. It was the best mind body spiritual book of 2015.
Oh.
Okay. And when you go to the homepage of my website, the first thing you see is award-winning author. Damn straight.
Yeah.
I use that at every opportunity. If it gets people in the tent,
Yes.
I'll use it. Right? But here's the thing: in that ultimate sense that you're talking about, Bob, who cares about wealth and honor? And the payoff is in the next line. Even the poorest thing shines. Right? This is why an awakened person. For an awakened person, it's safe to have wealth and honor. You can't get overshadowed by them because your moment-to-moment experience is everything shines. Even the poorest thing shines. You're looking at the coffee cup and going, beautiful coffee cup. You may not be doing this in an articulated, conscious way, but that's your experience. It's rich. Your moment-to-moment experience is rich. And that means you can't get too caught up in the conventional idea of a life that's rich being, what's the bottom number in your bank account. It's really nice to have some money. As you may have noticed, it's who was it? I think it might have been my grandfather who said, money can't buy happiness, but it can make you a whole lot more comfortable while you're busy being miserable. So even the poorest thing shines. My miraculous power and spiritual activity, drawing water and carrying wood. Now, this is a reference, as some of you will know, this is a reference to a famous koan in the Zen tradition. The koans are these kind of riddles that often come out of, I'm using the word riddle in a sort of a loose sense. They often come out of conversations that happen between teacher and student. The student comes to the Roshi, the Zen master, and asks a question. And then the answer becomes like, does the dog have Buddha nature, is a famous one. Right? Everything has Buddha nature. In other words, everything is an expression of the infinite. And there's a famous one, does the dog have Buddha nature? And the answer, so of course the answer has to be yes. But the answer that the master gave was mu, M-U, mu, which means no. What? Completely contradicts all the Buddhist teachings. And also it turns out that mu, I had to read a lot of books before I found out this part. This is more obscure. Mu is also, in Japanese, it's the equivalent of woof. It's the sound that a dog makes. Does the dog have Buddha nature? Arf, arf. Okay. So, in this case, in this koan, the student comes to the Roshi, to the master, and says, something, how can we be free of all the things that limit us, all the things we have to do? And the answer is, before awakening, we chop wood and carry water, right? That's the basics when you're not living in this kind of urbanized, situation that we have with running water, and, when you get cold, you turn up the thermostat, right? The basics are you got to chop wood for the fire and carry water to bring back so you can drink and and cook and wash. Chop wood and carry water. So what does the master say? Before awakening, we chop wood and carry water. But after awakening, we chop wood and carry water. Okay, you all hear that? You all hear that? It's right back to the beginning of the poem. Where does freedom happen? Where does where does infinite liberation happen? In the routine of daily life, of ordinary activities, not in doing something extraordinary. It's right there in the ordinary. But before we were chopping wood and carrying water, the implication being that's all we experienced. But now, after awakening, we chop wood and carry water. Right now, that's in the context of awakening. We're no longer, as he says, in conflict with it. It's no longer experienced as a sticking point for our awareness. Nothing makes our awareness stick. Our awareness is no matter what's going on. Okay, let's read another one. Dogen, page 49. Dogen is one of the most important Zen masters in the whole tradition. And he's like the teacher of teachers, and there's a lot of incredible stuff that comes from him. And this one, someone's given it a title on the Treasury of the True Dharma Eye, but I'm pretty sure that, in Zen poetry, generally, you don't give stuff titles. It's like Emily Dickinson. It just is what it is. Midnight, no waves, no wind. The empty boat is flooded with moonlight. Oh man, that's good. Midnight, no waves, no wind. The empty boat is flooded with moonlight. Now, this is a poem that's a poem. This is a poem that's not, it's not a little, the last one is gorgeous. It's great, but it's really teaching. It's really explicit teaching. It's, it could have been written as an essay, almost. Whereas this one, it's really a poem in the sense that it's experiential, right? It's conveying rather than telling us about enlightenment, it's conveying an experience, and we kind of get that experience and kind of get some flavor of enlightenment from having that experience. More experiential. Midnight. Okay. And this is, I'm assuming this was written in haiku form. Maybe not. It's before Basho and it's either haiku or in that neighborhood, meaning very terse, you use minimum words. So, midnight. If that's the whole poem, midnight, what do you get from that? What's the feeling? What's the atmosphere of that?
Lack of activity.
Say it again.
Lack of activity and lack of light.
Lack of activity, lack of the busy life, the civic life.
Yeah, I was going to say just quiet, peaceful.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Empty.
Quiet, peaceful.
End of the day.
And end of the day, all the activity of the day is settled down. Right? So we don't have to have here, 1,000 words like you usually get from me about, the mind settling down and blah, blah, blah. It's just midnight. There it is. Right? Um,
It
and
can
it's
be,
and it's dark. So the usual, all the details of, okay, oh, and there's the house over there, and there's the pavement, and there's the cobble. All that kind of recedes into the background. It's dark. The lights have come down. Yeah, Yehudit?
It can be also beginning of the new day. Midnight.
yeah.
It is a new day.
You can say that intellectually, but experientially, that's not what I get from that. Experientially, go out at midnight tonight, Yehudit, and then check back with me. Tell me what your experience is. I think you'll find the feeling is it's dark, it's quiet. It's dark, it's quiet. End of the old day, beginning of the new day. I mean, those are just intellectual descriptions either way. But the experience, it's dark, it's quiet, it's settled. And look how then the next thing goes along with that. No waves, no wind. So we know we're either we're on the water, or we're beside the water, a lake or a pond or something. But so midnight, there's no activity, no people, no busyness going on. There's no waves, so even the water is settled. No wind, even the air is settled. Everything is settled into this stillness. Sound familiar? Everything is settled into this stillness. Right? Exactly. Yes, it's exactly what we do in meditation. The good news is we don't have to wait till midnight for things to get quiet. We know how to we can experience this kind of quietness on the inside, even if on the outside it's high tide and the waves are, the surf is running. Right? But this is how poetry works. It's using these external things to evoke an internal state. Midnight, no waves, no wind. The empty boat is flooded with moonlight. The empty boat. So, no activity, no waves, no wind. The empty boat. No people aboard the boat. How does that correspond to our experience in meditation? The empty boat. The boat is there. The vehicle is there, but it's unmanned. Right?
It's the pure awareness, right? And you're
Right. This is what in Buddhist terms is called anatta. No self. What we thought that, inside, behind the eyes, between the ears, there's a little Dean inside here. There's a little monkey looking out through the windshield, driving the vehicle. Look out, turn left. Right? But it's empty. It's just pure beingness. It's just pure awareness. It's an empty boat. It's an empty boat. And I have the feeling here, the way I experience this is that the moon perhaps has been behind a cloud. And then there's this sudden moment in the final line is flooded with moonlight. Like maybe the moon comes out from behind the cloud. Maybe not. Maybe it's been shining steadily. That's just what I get. So what happens when everything settles down? When there's no this going on, no that going on, and when there's no longer the illusion, the convention of that there's someone driving the boat, just that the boat is empty. What happens? We're flooded with light, enlightenment. Our life becomes light filled. As the previous poem said, even the poorest thing shines. Everything's illuminated. All we got to do is do a little settling, get clear about the fact that this thing that we thought was the most important thing in the world, this I, was just an idea. It's just an idea. All these ideas we have, just think of all the ideas you have. If someone said, okay, write down the first 50 words that occur to you that describe you. that describe, Margaret or Judy or Kelly or, whoever, right? And then what we're being told here is none of that is you. All that's the vehicle. It's the boat. You're the one in the boat and you're empty space. And once you realize that, then there's that space is available. It's flooded with light. That's so beautiful.
Powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do one more. We've got time for one more, I think. Yes, on the next page, also by Dogen. Titled here, On Non-Dependence of Mind. This is a famous, it's a haiku. It's a famous one. Coming, going, the water birds don't leave a trace, don't follow a path. Coming, going, the water birds don't leave a trace, don't follow a path. Okay. We get to see where we live. Yaffa and I like to walk down to the ocean, which we can do in 12 minutes from our doorstep to the edge of the Pacific. And sometimes you see those little birds. I don't know what they're called. Do you know what they're called, Yaffa? Those little birds that they chase the waves and then they chase back.
Sandpipers.
Sandpiper, yeah.
Sandpipers. Okay, they're cute little guys, right? And they're, they go and they chase and they go, looking for little, whatever,
Yeah,
little
vipers.
tiny microscopic life forms they're picking out of the sand there.
Crab,
Crabs, tiny crabs,
tiny crabs.
seafood. They don't leave a trace, right? Do you see tracks from them? No, the water keeps washing it all away. They don't follow a path. They go, okay, here's, we get up in the morning and we go, okay, what's on my program today? Do this, do that, turn left, turn right. Pretty much we're following a path. And then, the bigger picture. Okay, go there, get the bachelor's degree, maybe get married, maybe not, this career. It's kind of like chopping wood and carrying water. It's all this stuff we have to do, and it comes to define our life. And it can seem like it's a limitation, it's a boundary. Okay? So, this is why people will sometimes then, you get your famous midlife crisis. You get you get men 50 years old and suddenly they disappear one day because they're on their way to Tahiti or something and leave the wife and the kids behind because they, oh my God, I've only got one life to live and I'm here doing this routine in the suburbs. I remember, God, I think it was maybe in the 80s. I was out here on a visit. I was still living in New Jersey. I was out here on a visit and I saw this billboard. And the billboard had two photographs and they were both of torsos. They were a person from like just under the neck to just, somewhere in the pelvis area. And it was this gorgeous woman in like a bikini and this gorgeous hunky guy in a Speedo or something. And in between the two photos, it said, "Life is short, get a divorce." Oh. And with the phone number for a divorce lawyer. I was so shocked. I thought, oh my God, that is the most evil thing I have ever seen.
Really?
Right? But that's really kind of, that says something about the mentality of many people. I'm missing it. I'm missing the chance for this is my one life. I've missed the brass ring somehow. But as we were told in the first poem today, as we awaken, even the poorest thing shines. Otherwise, if we're going for, I got to be married to the 10, I got to be married to, I shouldn't name any names, but let's just say when our current president was elected, I read this very bitter essay by Garrison Keillor, which you should look up sometime. It's just a really great bitter piece of writing, and it's titled something like this: "Thank you, voters, for this wonderful joke." And he says something about this president, blah 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 blah, and his mannequin wife.
Yeah.
So when we just get caught up in chasing those things that we think of as, if I can just get that, if I can be married to that 10, that'll be it. If I can just get that honor, if I can get elected, what's the highest thing? President of the United States. I'm the leader of the free world. Then I will reach some apotheosis, and then I'll be happy and I'll live forever. And literature is full of this stuff. Macbeth, right? If I can just, I just kill Duncan so I can become the king of Scotland, then I'll have it made and I'll be like immortal. I'll live forever. But then, what about now I got to kill these guys. And and by the way, I'm miserable and I can't sleep and I have bad dreams and,
Can I just ask, since there's only a couple minutes, is
Right.
this the same poet as the barn poem?
No, that's a different one. That's
Okay.
Esau or EQ.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, but you're
Just wondering if we could end on that if you're not going to do any more Zen poetry. 'Cause that's
I'll throw that in
so
there. I'll throw that in.
amazing.
Okay, let
Thank
me just take 10 seconds to point out, look at your own life and notice whether, since you've been doing this kind of practice, doing this meditative practice, spiritual practice, whatever, that it's more like, okay, you're coming and you're going, but you're not following a path and you're not leaving tracks. Even if you get up in the morning and do the same routine, that again, it's finding the freedom within the routine, finding the freedom within it doesn't make tracks on your, this is a thing I often say in leading meditation. It's fine if there's, no matter how intense the thoughts or the emotions might be, or how loud the sounds may be, it's all experienced within sky-like awareness and nothing dents the sky. Right? Even the most intense tornado does not damage the sky. Even the most beautiful rainbow does not enhance the sky, because the sky is just open space. And that's the nature of awareness, which is what we are. That's the empty boat. So even if, fine, get the BA, get married, follow the conventional life as it's dictated by your society, your culture, your family, you can be absolutely free within that. There's no trace.
Mhm.
So let's end quickly with the request. We got one on the request line here from Yafa. I forget his name. He was a samurai, a great samurai, great warrior, but because it's the great Japanese Zen culture, he was also a great poet. And he became very wealthy, and he had all his wealth stored in this barn, and it's before the days of insurance, and there was a big fire and the barn burned down and he lost all his wealth. And his response was to write a haiku that said, "Barns burned down, now I can see the moon. Barns burned down, now I can see the moon." Right? And even just to take that literally, like, okay, now that barn's out of the way, what a wonderful thing to be able to go, that thing's gone. I can see the beautiful moonlight. But of course, it's deeper, or it's also deeper, right? We all have, whether you're storing your precious things that you're attached to in a barn or in an account at Chase Manhattan Bank, or on your hard drive, or in your photo album, You know, whenever you see news coverage of like the hurricanes and people's houses are destroyed and they're picking through, and what they're always looking for is the photo album. It's like, oh, all my memories. Of course, these days it's all those photos are probably stored in the cloud. But you have the idea, you know, wherever it is, okay, here's the stuff that's precious. It's a very interesting mind exercise, a very interesting thought experiment. That's the word, thought experiment. Think, what is your barn? Right? What is your barn? What do you have stored in the barn? What is the stuff that you think of as, oh, this is the cherished stuff, and if that were to go away, life would not be okay for me. Okay? And I think it's a very valuable thing to do the thought experiment where you can even visualize this. Put all the stuff in the barn and then burn it down. And if you feel your blood pressure starting to go up thinking about it, that's part of the exercise. Okay? And then go through that. This is good. This is good. We can play with this. And then let it do that mentally, burn it all down, and then see what's left. Throw everything into that fire that can be thrown. See what's left and see, and whatever emotional upset is there, that's fine. Go through that, process it. And then see where's the place you can still, of okayness. Where's the place of boundless okayness, even after your barn's burned down? That's a good exercise. Thank you.
And even, you know, the moon, I mean, it's like not just okay, it's like the clear light of the moon. It's like, whoa.
Yes. Yeah. 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 It's yeah. The moon is, it's what I call infinite okayness. It's illumination, and illumination is always there, available when you got nothing. And we have historical exemplars like the Buddha who had nothing to model that for us. If you happen to have my book, Fear Less, this one, there's a chapter in there called Lord Shiva Kicks Ass. Okay? And I actually tell that story about the barns burned down in that chapter. And a number of people have told me they think that chapter is probably the best thing or the most useful thing that I've ever written. Lord Shiva in the Hindu pantheon is the Lord of destruction, the Lord of everything's going to go away in its time. If you don't read anything else by me, I recommend you read that chapter. Okay? So next week we'll do something. Maybe some more Zen poetry. Maybe I'm actually doing a lot of reading right now of John Keats, the great romantic English poet. Maybe we'll do Keats next week. Okay? So, but it'll be in the newsletter you'll get on Tuesday morning, as always. So, thank you so much, dear friends. Thanks for playing.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy being.
Thanks for the playing field.